Supergirl, 1984, the DC comic spin-off of the successful Christopher Reeves Superman franchise. To be fair, 1983 saw Superman 3 released, which is quite a strange movie in the franchise as well, isn't it? But
yeah.
So, yeah, that flopped. Warner Brothers had produced all of the Superman films.
Right.
And I think they'd put the money into Supergirl, but then when it come to release it, they was like, nah, Superman 3 was pretty horrendous. We're going to call it a day. So then TriStar Pictures released Supergirl instead.
Sweet move.
But I watched the other day the making of Supergirl, Nathan,
yeah.
after I'd watched the film.
Right.
And it's interviewing all the actors, Peter O'Toole and Faye Dunaway, and they are all convinced they are in a groundbreaking movie that's going to be like a massive hit.
Was this before they'd read the script?
They're in costume, Nathan, by this point. I'll just quickly summarise the plot of Supergirl for everyone so they know what's going on.
Good luck.
Kara lives in Argo City, which is this Christmas tree with toilet paper wrapped around it. Is it a TP'd Christmas tree? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But it's where the people who were on Krypton, when Krypton blew up, in the Superman films,
yes,
it's where they are. And Peter O'Toole is the person who created it, but he's stolen a power source, which is called the Omega Hedron. The Omega Hedron.
Oh, right, yes.
And he's making trees with it. And that and a plastic toy, a little orange plastic wand.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't have it. He's not supposed to have it. And then Kara sees that he's got it. He shows her. And then she starts using it and makes a butterfly, which flies out of
the cling film.
So the power source flies away.
Yeah. It gets sucked out, right? But the wand that was right next to it is fortunately still on the floor and didn't get sucked through the same hole, which is fucking useful because fortunately they were able to use it to reseal the hole after they'd managed to stop Kara from getting sucked through it.
So the power source has disappeared.
Yeah, but fortunately, Peter O'Toole had not long before the power source was lost, created a tracking wrist thing and put it on Kara prior to this all happening.
And it was a good job that he'd also made a little weird ball vehicle thing.
Yeah.
That he was about to fly to Venus.
Yeah, yes.
But then as soon as that flies off,
yeah,
he says, I'm going to send myself now to prison for space guys. What is it called?
The Phantom Zone.
Yeah, the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hang on, could you not try getting it back first? What? You're just going to throw in the towel, just like, what? I mean, Peter O'Toole, Lawrence of Arabia here, we're talking, Nath, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. First of all, what is he wearing? It's the hammiest acting I've ever seen. It is horrendous acting. Now we've established they live in inner space. The city's only got 2 power sources. Without one of them, everyone's going to die. And that's the one he's throwing around.
Yeah.
When someone comes, he just kicks it away.
To a girl that we've established isn't very good at 6th dimensional maths. So if you're going to throw around an Omega Hedron in such a small enclosed space, the last person you want to give it to is someone that is failing 6th dimensional maths. The thing is when you get inside the city, it's clear that they have spent some time and effort to make the set. If you guys had put half of the effort that you've put into making this set into writing the script...
or refining it. Do you think someone wrote a first draft and they're like, yeah, give it here, we go. Well, hang on a minute. That's just ideas. That's just a list of ideas. Too late, we're shooting it.
And then we get onto Earth, right?
Which she already says, oh, that's where my cousin went. The original screenplay of this, it was going to have Superman in it as well.
Right. You know, if you're paying attention, if you're not rolling around on the floor with laughter at this point, when Selina's in the car, there's a little snippet on the radio that explains that Superman's off planet dealing with a problem, isn't he?
That's right, because Christopher Reeve was busy doing something else. But they got Mark McClure, who plays from the Daily Planet, who we established by the end of this film was a paedophile, hanging around with school children and snogging them. Well, you think this is 1984 and Superman was 1977, so that's 7 years. So if he's like, at the time he goes to work for the Daily Planet, which you already established he's been there for some time because he knows his way around.
Maybe don't do the math. Maybe that's six-dimensional maths.
But that's the only real tie-in, except for a Christopher Reeve poster, a Superman poster that comes in halfway through the film. That's the only tie-in we actually have to the Superman universe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mark McClure. Who's the wettest character anyway, isn't
I really enjoyed the scene where Kara finally gets to Earth, and then she's like this Supergirl Snow White hybrid, and she's sort of using her special powers, her laser eyes, to open up flowers and dancing around in the woods and sleeping with rabbits.
Yeah, and she learns everything very quick.
Yeah.
There was no evolution. She's just like, oh, I can look at this flower and make it grow. Well, Superman was blowing things up with his eyes and burning them. So how does she know to differentiate? Did we see her land on Earth? Because we see the Omegahedron falls and Peter Cook and Faye Dunaway are having a picnic.
Yeah.
Talking about spells because they're witches.
Yeah.
And we see the thing fall and it falls right in their food. But we don't see her land, do we?
No.
Because she comes out of the lake fully dressed in the Superman outfit.
When she left, she went from wearing a white robe to magically being in this blue and red Supergirl costume with a
Why is she
really short skirt on.
And if it was already in there, what the hell
where was Zaltar going?
What is he wearing that for? But Peter Cook, I mean, we're both fans of Peter Cook, and the bloke is a genius. But he really was in Dudley's shadow, I think, at this point in his career, and trying to break out into Hollywood, because Dudley Moore by this point had 10 and Arthur.
Yeah.
Whereas Peter Cook, sort of the comic genius of their pairing, is getting a bit left along the wayside.
Yeah.
And you said yourself the other day, you felt bad for Peter Cook watching him in this film.
You can pinpoint the exact moment where it was the saddest and most confusing, and that's when he pulls that fucking wand out.
Or where he's wearing that fucking leisure suit.
Oh my God, what the fuck was that about? He did not look comfortable in that scene either, did he?
He looked like a sofa. He only wears it in the one scene. They take the piss out of it. It's like, what did he need to wear it?
That was a proper shooter man when he's down scene, wasn't it?
I know, it's strange. But then anyway, Faye Dunaway is this witch, Selina, and she gets the Omegahedron.
Yeah.
And then it makes all her magic
real.
And she becomes this sort of magical genius. So then she goes back to her lair. Lex Luthor in the Superman film, he has a lair. He lives in a train station under the ground.
Yeah.
It's a real brilliant set. So they're like, oh, where should we put Selina's lair? Let's have her in a fairground in a ghost train, and that's her house.
Oh, Jesus.
But the set is nothing to write home about.
No,
it's watching sort of all the scenes unfold in that set was like watching the Golden Girls to me. And she's got her little mate, and she
Bianca, is that right?
Bianca. And I don't get what she does really.
Oh, she's the comic relief.
Oh, is that what it was? Because like Lex Luthor obviously has Otis, doesn't he? Mr. Luthor, Mr. Luthor, and he was comic relief. But yeah, this woman here she's just not funny. At this point, then Supergirl, she flies off. There seems to be like 7 scenes of her just flying through the air, and the theme tune, Jerry Goldsmith's theme tune. It's not John Williams in this one. It's Jerry Goldsmith, and by this point already, like 15 minutes into the film, I am sick of that theme tune. It's just repetitive. It's the same thing, and you're watching the same thing. You're just watching her flying over landscapes.
Trees, horses running.
She flies out of New York. She goes out to the suburbs, doesn't she? And then the truck pulls up, doesn't it, Nath?
Yeah, it does. It does. So this is now her first interaction with mankind. And these 2 delightful gentlemen exit the vehicle and come and offer her some assistance.
Some rape.
Oh, right. Yes, that's right. Rape. A good old-fashioned rape scene. Literally, they could have written any scene in here, like there was a mugging going on and she could have interjected. You know what I mean? There could have been any tasteful scene, and they were like, no, we're going to have 2 morons in a truck try and rape her. And they're in comparison to Supergirl, they're relatively slow learners, aren't they?
Because what does she do first?
First of all, she She blows one of them?
No, she crunches his face up, doesn't she? And lifts him up.
Right, yeah, and then she blows him.
And then she blows him off. Right over the fence. And then the other one's like, oh, I'll have a go.
That's it. So she's just lifted a guy up with a single hand and then with just her breath blown him backwards through a fence. And then he's like, oh, right, sweet, I reckon I could take you on. You want to play rough, eh?
So she beats them up and they both end up sort of lying in all the trash.
Yeah.
And then they say, we won't tell anyone about this one. We keep this one to ourselves.
We don't tell anyone about the failed rape. Yeah, that's the first rule of Rape Club.
And then we go back to Selina's. Now, at this point, Selina, I think, is realising that she wants to rule the world. Her plan to rule the world, step one, is to make everyone love me.
Yeah, no, and this is great. And her plan to make everyone love her, her mate, who that's her whole purpose, Bianca's whole purpose, is to spot this guy that is supposed to be a hunk who is Hart Boschner.
Yeah.
Is he famous?
You probably recognise him from one film.
Right.
He plays Ethan, doesn't he? But
oh, yeah, I know exactly who he is.
Yeah.
He's the cokehead in Die Hard, isn't he?
That's it, Ellis.
Is it Ellis? Yeah, Ellis, yeah. So this plan to make everyone fall in love with her now starts specifically with Ethan.
Yeah.
So start small.
But at this point, Supergirl, she decides she needs to join a school. Time is of the essence. My family are suffocating, but I better go to school. And she flies into a tube as Supergirl and comes out.
No. She does it behind the tree, doesn't she?
Behind several trees.
Yeah, that's it.
She walks behind a tree, and when she comes out the other side, she's got a school shirt on, a blazer.
Yeah.
And then she comes out, she's got the socks and the skirt, and she's different hair.
Changed her hair colour.
Another power that I bet Superman was like, oh, I wish I knew how to do that. Because he has to wear his costume under real clothes.
Yeah.
But she can materialise clothes. That's how good she is. It's amazing.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, I just thought about it, and then the first time it took me 2 trees, and the second time it just took me a pipe.
At this point, she's made up her own name. I'm Linda Lee. And then she meets her roommate, Lucy Lane, Lois Lane's sister. So it's small world, isn't it, Nath?
Yeah, well, again, very convenient.
By this point, Selina has made this potion. She's put this little spider in a walnut, and she's given this potion to Ethan. And he's come out really drunk, and he's just walking dizzily through the town. So you've got Selina and Bianca are sat at home watching The Mirror with Ethan walking around. They can see everything that's happening in the town through this mirror. Like, they know where he is. Why don't they just go and get him?
Yeah, and the thing that needs to be noted here is that obviously because he's had the potion, when he wakes up from his sleep, the first person he lays eyes on, he's going to fall in love with. And that was the whole point of getting him round there, for Selina to give him this potion so that when he wakes up, she sees him, he sees her, they fall in love. Then she's got her king, and then she can progress with making the rest of the world fall in love with her, and then world domination. So at this point, he's stumbling through the whole town, magically not making eye contact with any females. Like you say, they probably should go out and try and rescue him. But no, clearly if you're a witch, you're going to command a piece of inert construction machinery to do your bidding.
Yeah, this is where you're thinking, there's not been really any big action scenes yet. In Superman, the movie, by this point you had that amazing scene where the helicopter's taken off of Lois Lane off the top of the skyscraper, gets tangled in the rope and starts hanging off the side. Really effective, really good little action scene. But now we need to see Supergirl in action. We need an action scene. So basically the action scene that we've all been waiting for, where we're first going to see Supergirl, is her rescuing Ethan from a runaway digger. Lucy Lane is like injured inside it, and now Supergirl, she doesn't stop the digger, she just takes the front off of it, which has got him in it, leaves her mate inside as it's still smashing through buildings. I thought that's your best mate, but she flies the thing down, lands it, opens it up, and then he sees her, but she changes by this point, doesn't she, from Supergirl back into Kara.
Linda Lee.
Turns into Linda Lee, the schoolgirl. And then he opens his eyes and obviously, first female he's seen, falls in love with her.
Yeah, another paedophile.
The witches, who have been watching the whole thing unfold in front of them, missed her turning from one to the other.
Yeah.
They didn't see that.
No.
And Linda Lee, this lad, falls in love with her now. All of a sudden, he's talking like fucking...
Oh, yeah.
A scribe, like...
Yeah, he's like an old English poet all of a sudden.
Something out of Shakespeare. Who talks like that?
It's like, dude, you're trying to serenade a schoolgirl.
But this has been written by men. And I think this is like, we got to make this film for girls. Girls love this stuff. We've had the horses running freely.
Yeah. We've had the flowers. We've had Supergirl waking up, curled up with a bunny rabbit.
Now we need like this fucking vomitous poetry.
Yeah.
You know, we've had one action scene. And now it's nearly every other scene is an action scene. So it still feels the slowest film ending ever. But the next action scene, Selina sends an invisible monster storm to
kill a schoolgirl.
Yeah. And she comes out as Supergirl and suddenly thinks, I know how to defeat this. It's easy.
Yeah, so she has a little Thor moment, doesn't she, where she rips the light out, flies up and collects the lightning, and then she comes flying back down with this, what can only be described as a poor man's lightsaber, holds it up with both hands, shoots 2 tiny weak electric bolts out of it at the beast, and then it sort of vanishes into a pale blue light.
Done. But nothing compares to the next action sequence, which is just after she's at the fairground with Ethan.
Yep.
And then, lo and behold, Selina, she sends really slow dodgems after Ethan.
Of all the things at a fairground that she could have done to torture him and scare him.
She doesn't need Peter Cook anymore, and she tells him so. And then she says, and we don't need this dump either, referring to her ghost train lair. So she materialises a mountain next to the town with a big castle on top. Everyone in the town, they were upset, aren't they? They all start protesting against her. And Jimmy Olsen's still there.
Yeah, Jimmy Olsen's still there, grooming.
Yeah. And Supergirl turns up to defeat her, and it's a trap. She sees Ethan, and then when she turns around to go and get him, she's stuck behind glass, and then she realises that she is trapped in the Phantom Zone and then sent out into outer inner space.
Into outer inner space.
Oh, right, that's what it was, that way.
So the glass thing smashes on arrival, doesn't it, when she lands on the surface, and that part of the surface seems to be surprisingly spongy, almost like it's a mattress. And then she steps 3 steps back and then tries to fly and lands in exactly the same space that just so happens to be spongy like a mattress. Then she's like trying to crush a stone and makes her hand bleed.
I wrote as a note, it's like trying to get blood out of a stone.
Yeah, because surprisingly, the blood does seem to come from the stone and not her hand.
But she meets Peter O'Toole. Good job he banished himself and didn't try and use his genius to try and save.
Because otherwise, she'd have been stranded there in the Phantom Zone on her own without a guide.
So she meets him and instantly squirts in her mouth.
Squirt?
And that seems to be all he wants to do. Let me squirt in your mouth again.
It's like the first 6 months of any relationship.
She's like, where are we? He's like, we're in the Phantom Zone. And she's like, how do we get out? There is no way out of the Phantom Zone. And then 2 minutes later, he says, there is a way. If there's a way out of the Phantom Zone, why hasn't everyone tried it?
And I'm not even trying to be funny at this point, but it didn't actually look that difficult.
10 minutes and they're out.
Yeah.
It's a long 10 minutes again, isn't it? Really shit green screen. Some more awful Peter O'Toole acting.
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrible. And then they're like clinging onto this wall with this ferocious drop beneath them, climbing over the rift or something, trying to get through a little hole at the top.
Yeah.
And he doesn't make it, but he saves her. She gets out and then he falls. And it's really impressive. That bit is my favourite special effect in the whole film.
What, where he goes into...
where he falls with no emotion on his face. It's just like a 3D cutout of him just being spun around.
And whilst they're trying to exit, Selina is launching an arsenal of random weirdness at them. You know, she just so happens to have a book on the table behind her, which is, ways to attack people trying to exit the Phantom Zone. Oh, brilliant. This is just the novel I was looking for.
What's her name? Comes back through the mirror, smashes through the mirror that they're all watching it on. But at this point, Selina has captured Lucy Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and Peter Cook, and they're all in these balls, aren't they? Being held up in these chain balls. And Peter Cook says something like, the old dangling ball from a ceiling trick.
Good line.
Good line. Best line in the film.
Yeah.
Supergirl smashes in through the mirror anyway, and she's like, this is it. This is the big fight now. Fucking shit, it's going to get real. And then Selina says, you're no match for me. And then she makes polystyrene bricks fall off of a cardboard wall, first of all, which is a bit of an inconvenience. But nothing compared to what she does with the floor tiles. She makes them wobble a bit.
Which, to someone who can fly, is bewildering.
She's wobbling about on an uneven floor that's tipping ever so slightly here and there. And then Selina decides she's got to conjure up Demon Storm, is it?
Yeah.
And then this demon thing comes along. Wow, these effects must have been breathtaking at the day. I bet they were watching this going, oh my God, it's contorting her. She's just getting stretched and twisted. And it's like, it's obviously they're just twisting the footage of her. Oh my God.
What even is the monster, the big rubber thing? It's just like, it's like Elf, the extraterrestrial.
Alf. Alien life form.
Yeah, it's like Alf. It's like Alf on steroids with a couple of horns.
It is.
And now he's, like you said, he's got these two hands that are closed. They're not even closing. They're just moving a little bit. And then you've got this superimposed image of Supergirl on top of it that's bending, crumpling and groaning a little bit.
But I can't even remember how she defeats it.
Oh no, she just hears Zaltar's voice and then flies out of his hands.
That's right, yeah. It's like the Force.
Exactly, she Star Wars'd it.
No, she turns into a tiny little red dot and spins around her really quickly.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And with the smaller mass, using sixth dimensional maths, she's able to increase her maximum velocity to the point where she can generate a small localized whirlwind inside the room, which picks up Selina, not forgetting her friend, and then transports them into the mirror, which then magically picks up all of its glass and reforms.
Yeah, and then she unmaterializes the mountain.
Yeah, but there's nothing complicated about that. That's as simple and as uncomplicated as walking behind a tree and changing your clothes.
Exactly. She knew how to do that. That's easy. That's basic six-dimensional maths, isn't it? So then everyone else, Peter Cook and McClure, Lucy Lane, they all just turn up back in the town. And she says, I've got to go because I've got to save my people. So you think, we're going to see her save her people. And then she flies and just ducks into a lake and then flies towards the Christmas tree with
and
toilet paper around
and the lights get a little bit brighter.
And that's the end, mate.
Done.
That is that.
You know why they ended it there?
Go on.
Because if they actually showed you arriving at the city, bearing in mind she was about 3 days on Earth, she was just going to find everyone suffocated and dead.
Yeah.
And you don't see her beat her own head out with that little wand dildo thing, so angry at herself, thinking, why did I fucking go to that maths lesson and that hockey game?
She got distracted by girl things.
Yeah. Braziers, hockey, and men.
Do you know what? This has been hanging over us for months, hasn't it? I hope it's been worth it.
Mate, I got to be honest, I've thoroughly enjoyed this evening.
It was a film. It was a movie, and we did talk about it.